Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is the bonus footage from my time with the Skorpion EVO. So, last Friday we had the puntage go out. Kind of a cherry on the topping of the trifle that was the Black Ops 2 weapon guides. Kind of a fun video. I wasn't really having any great hopes for its reception, but it did attract quite a few likes, also quite a few dislikes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because, you know, sometimes it's okay to rustle a few jimmies. I think that probably marks the last video for Black Ops 2 now. So going forward, we're going to see a bit more of an eclectic mix of gaming videos, until at least the next generation rolls around, and I'll get back to what I do best. Anyway, this next video, it's fairly meaty. It's well researched, it's kind of a documentary, and it should hopefully be interesting. One of my key goals over the next couple of months, whilst I have carte blanche to work on whatever I choose, is to plumb some of the depths of some of the areas I'd like to explore, and to see how well it's received. So this next video, I would have liked to have published it on this Friday coming, but unfortunately I'm away for a couple of days, and, well, I don't want to rush it. I've got a lot of graphics work left to do for it. So I'm hoping to finish it this weekend, and I might hold on to it for the Friday after to give me a bit more time to work on the next video, whatever that might be. I actually haven't decided yet. Anyway, after that, I'm hoping that I can sustain one major production a week on my main channel. Weekly videos, I think they're a good blend between regularity and the amount of time that I get to actually invest in research and recording and writing and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's current state of affairs, but you're all here for the questions, I suppose, so let's get on with those. Lieutenant Brownman asks, would you consider doing some zombies, Stu? Well, like I say, I think I'm done with Black Ops 2, and I'm not really a big fan of zombies. I mean, I don't dislike it, it's just that I don't really play it much. So, no, I don't think it's likely for me to do any zombies content. Jarsept says, how do you feel about the Gran Turismo series? Well, I've been using my PlayStation a bit more of late. It normally sits in the bedroom where it's a Netflix machine, but I've actually made sort of a resolution to catch up on some PlayStation titles, and I've been playing some GT5. And I've got to say, I'm disappointed with it. It seems like on the PlayStation 2, Gran Turismo was, you know, the definitive driving series, but with the delay of GT5 and with the final product being what it is, I don't know, it just seems like Forza have really taken the lead. I mean, don't get me wrong, the driving controls are pretty tight, the simulation's nice, but the game feels weak. It doesn't feel really all that fun. So I don't know, maybe I'm just a Forza fanboy, but there you go. Fluttershies asks, Stu, do you plan on covering Ghosts on the Xbox One or the Xbox 360? Given the choice, I think I'd rather play it on the Xbox One. I mean, you know, it would make more sense to play it on the more powerful machine. What it comes down to, of course, is a question of release dates. Ghosts is released on November the 5th, I think, and it really depends on when I can get hold of an Xbox One. Now, it might turn out that Xbox One is releasing simultaneously, which is brilliant, because that means I can just start my series from the get-go. No worries, no problem. But if it releases a couple of weeks before on the Xbox 360, there's a really strong incentive for me to buy it twice. Because, of course, you want to get your videos out as soon as possible, but at the same time, I do want to transition to the Xbox One once it's available. So it's a question of release dates, and I really hope Europeans don't get a 2-week delay on release dates, because think of the YouTube money. I suppose one thing I could do is I could start the series on the Xbox 360, then transition, but it remains to be seen how well that would work. Hookie Stig asks, surely you're considering doing Order 1886? I don't know. It takes more than a steampunk setting and a flashy cinematic trailer to woo me. It's a PlayStation exclusive title as well, which raises two kind of key issues. The first of which is a PlayStation exclusive is going to have a smaller overall audience than a cross-platform game. And the second issue, which is less of a real issue and more of a personal annoyance, is that my channel's called Xbox Ahoy, and if I did a PlayStation exclusive game, I'd receive comments like, oh, he's called Xbox Ahoy, but he's doing a PlayStation game. And maybe that doesn't seem like an annoying comment to you, but I read a lot of comments, and just certain things push my buttons. But really, my major reservation about Order 1886 is that it doesn't look that good. I mean, it might be okay, it might be great, it might be brilliant, but I'm not going to place any bets on it, so I'll see what the reviews are like when they come in. Hzx Stiles says, did you like this generation, and why? Ah yes, we're coming to the end of Generation 7 now, and we are on the cusp of Gen 8. Exciting times for all, even for PC gamers, because it means the baseline is about to be raised. So, this generation, It's been a long one, and it's been the first console generation that I've been actively involved in throughout its lifespan. I'd actually quite like to do a video covering a retrospective on Gen 7, and, you know, the lessons we learned over the course of Generation 7. But that is quite literally just on the drawing board for the time being, but it might come to fruition over the next few weeks. There are really 3 phases to this generation. The first phase is when certain games like Gears of War and Project Gotham Racing, they kind of tempted me away from PC gaming. I mean, like I say, I've been a PC gamer for a long time, but it wears on you after a while when you see all these console guys getting these games that you can't play. And it's a slew of terrible ports and delayed releases, particularly for games like GTA, where you'd have to wait months after the console release. They wear you down. But I think it was Halo 2 that broke my PC gaming back, so to speak. I liked Halo. I loved the first one. I had it on PC. And so I was excited about a sequel. A lot of people were excited about Halo 2, I think. And then it came out on Xbox and I thought, that's fine, I'll wait for the PC port. I'm a patient guy, I can wait for a couple of months. Then about 2 years later, when it still hadn't been released, they were talking about it requiring Vista. And this was around the introduction of Games for Windows Live, or whatever it was called. And I was sitting down, I was watching telly, and there were adverts for this game called Gears of War. And I thought, you know what? I want to play these games. I don't want to wait for them. I don't want to have to upgrade to Vista. And thus was my induction to Generation 7. Yes, I bought an Xbox 360. And I enjoyed it in the early days. It wasn't quite... I mean, it was a bit like PC gaming, just different. And there weren't that many games, but there were some games that you couldn't get anywhere else. So I enjoyed Project Gotham, and I enjoyed Gears of War. And then, a little game called Call of Duty 4 came out. And I've got to admit, I was a little bit dubious about the whole modern setting. I was a big fan of the World War II era ones, and I don't know, I didn't know if they'd pull it off. But it turns out that it reviewed pretty well, and a lot of people were talking about it, and eventually I think one of my friends kind of persuaded me to buy it. And then, well, all of a sudden, Call of Duty was the new hot game to play, and it's what you'd play online. And, you know, it was pretty much from about 2008 onwards that it was the golden era of Gen 7. It was a good time to be a gamer. You had BioShock, you had Call of Duty 4, we had Modern Warfare 2 to look forward to in 2009, the next year, and then we had stuff like 1 vs 100 on Xbox Live, which was brilliant. It was the future of video gaming. And then they cancelled it, and then ever since these heady heights of the summer of 2009, 2010, everything's kind of been in decline. You know, there have been some good games, there have been some highlights, Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim, a few other games that have, you know, The Last of Us as well, probably one of the best games of the closing era of Gen 7. But yeah, this last portion of Generation 7 has kind of been the dying embers, where Microsoft and Sony's focus has shifted away from the current generation to the next, and things have just been left to wind down, to coast for a little while. The hardware's approaching a decade old, and it just can't hang with modern PCs. Most of the games we're seeing are, you know, less than innovative, they're just rehashed sequels. Essentially what it boils down to is just efforts on both the hardware front and on the developers front being split between Gen 7 and Gen 8. So it's all swings and roundabouts, isn't it? And we're hopefully going to come around to another glorious era of Gen 8 in a few years. I strongly suspect 2016 will be a very good year for gaming. We'll have games like what? Forza 6, Titanfall 2, Call of Duty 20, who knows? Did I answer the question? I just talked about Gen 7 for a while there. Cataclysm 2112 asks, behind the lines, Stuart, are you making it? At the minute, I am not, but it is kind of as a potential for the next couple of months. I don't know. My approach to video making has probably shifted slightly in the 2 years since the pilot episode. So I think I definitely would change the concept slightly. Like, certainly it wouldn't be Call of Duty focused. I think I'd want to go for a much more broad appeal than just Call of Duty. But there's kind of this divide from the behind-the-lines concept, from the real-life focus and the video game focus. You know, which one do you focus on? I mean, there have been plenty of documentaries about the real-life AK-47, so what angle do I take to make it distinctive? I think one very real possibility is to turn it into 2 videos. One focused on the real-life AK, one focused on the depiction of the AK in video games. So that's where I'm at with Behind the Lines. I do think some of the approaches I used in the original video could very well spill over into some of the work that I'm doing now. I am taking more of a documentary-esque approach. So if you like that angle, hopefully some of the videos upcoming will scratch that itch. Another thing I'm trying to do is to make all of my videos expressible as a question. Now, the stuff like weapon guides, they have like an intrinsic question. How do I use the Skorpion? What guns go best with the suppressor? Stuff like that. It's pretty obvious, what the intent of the video is. But for some stuff, like behind the lines included, it's not really obvious what it is from the exterior. And even the questions that the first episode of Behind the Lines answers, like what is the history of the FAL, isn't necessarily that interesting. I think there has to be like a challenge to the viewer in the title, or at least, accessible somewhere. This is one of my kind of theoretical approaches to video making in the future. It's not a bad thing to be mindful of how you present a video. It doesn't mean I'm cheapening the content in any way. It just, it gives me better focus on how to frame a video. It results in better writing, and it can result in attracting a larger audience, which is, it's a win-win. So instead of calling a video Behind the Lines Episode 2, I might call it, Why is the AK-47 so popular? The first title is meaningless if you don't know what Behind the Lines is. The second title makes you think, well, I don't know. Why is the AK-47 so popular? So that's my current line of thinking. Behind the Lines may return, but it might not be called Behind the Lines. Or if it is called Behind the Lines, it might be a subtitle. Anyway, enough serious video talk. Let's do some rapid-fire questions. BBE070 asks, what do you think about the GTA 5 GTA Online trailers? Looks good, you've got to admit. Yeah, very excited about GTA 5. I've been a long-time fan of the series, and yeah, of course, I'll be picking up GTA 5 on launch. Kind of wish it was coming out for the next-gen consoles, but obviously the bigger audience is on 360 PS3, so I guess I'll have to make do with last-gen graphics. Justice VI4 says, any chance of rebooting Retro Ahoy? I would like to be more active on the Retro Ahoy channel, however, there are a couple of stumbling blocks. The first, and perhaps the most major, is my CPM is worse on Retro Ahoy. Simple fact of the matter is, a view is worth more to me on Xbox Ahoy than it is on Retro Ahoy by quite a significant factor. This means I'll be better off just posting Retro Ahoy content on Xbox Ahoy. And in a way, this is kind of what I plan to do. Some of the content I've got lined up does feature information of a historical video game bent. It's not quite the authentic series, but if this proves to be, at least moderately popular, you might get to see some content that could fit on Retro Ahoy, but on my main channel. Which is win-win, because I get paid more, and there's a larger audience there. K4MRU7, or Camrel, says, Stu, have you ever had an idea that you thought was amazing, but when you started working on it, you start to think, wow, this actually isn't that good? Happens all the time. It's called the creative process. I suppose with practice you get to weed out the bad ideas early on, but yeah, I mean, even an idea that sounds good in the beginning, it can turn out to be less good than you anticipated. It's just the way things go. Case in point, Notch's recent game that was shelved, 10 to the power C, or however you pronounce it. Arbitrary Armorify says, is there any particular reason you have such good pronunciation of a multitude of languages? Well, the best advice I can give you is just say it like you know what you're talking about, and hope nobody who speaks that language turns up. I do try to get pronunciation right, but it's not always easy. Google Translate has a text-to-speech feature for a variety of languages, which can help, but just getting the accent down can be difficult sometimes. Because even if you say a Russian or a German or whatever word, sometimes it will sound like you've got an English accent whilst you're saying it, so to a native speaker it will still sound unusual. To lose an accent entirely when speaking a foreign language would probably require that you spend years upon years immersed in the language. So that's about all of the clips I've got. There's a few more left, but I'll wrap this up. As I mentioned, sadly there is no video this Friday, as I am away for a few days, but hopefully I'll be back this weekend and I might do an additional video on this channel. Otherwise, I'll do another bonus footage next week, probably midweek, probably Wednesday again, and on the Friday after that, that is to say the 30th, there will be another video. Hopefully my audience will find it interesting. There has been a lot of work done for this video, and I am curious to see how it will be received. Your feedback will definitely shape the, the future direction of the things that I do for my channel. And any questions left on this video, down there below, I will also take for the bonus video next week. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.